Welcome to Jazzology, presented by Savage Content. I'm your host, Chris Pizzolo, and I'm sitting in for the one and only Willard Jenkins this week. As a reminder, we're here every other Friday giving two fans the opportunity to compete against each other for a chance to win $100. Each contestant will be asked a question worth 2 points. If they're unable to answer correctly, their opponent will have the chance to steal the question for 1 point. We will ask 10 questions in total, and at the end of 10 questions, the person with the lowest score will get a bonus question for the opportunity to tie the score. If they're successful, the game will go into sudden death. Each contestant will take turns trying to answer the multiple choice questions until we have a winner. Our reigning champion this week, can you believe it, folks? Ricky Riccardi, back again, a Louis Armstrong author and scholar and 2022 Grammy Award recipient for album notes. Ricky, how you doing? Welcome back.
Oh, man, I feel like this is my home away from home now.
It's certainly become that. And joining Ricky this week, today's challenger is Joe Petrucelli, the executive director of the Jazz Foundation of America with responsibilities in program development, fundraising, production, and financial management. Joe, welcome aboard. How you doing?
I'm great. It's good to be here and ready to take on the champ. Looking forward to it.
We're looking forward to a really great episode today, guys. As always, the reigning champion will go first. So we'll begin with the first of 10 questions. Ricky, this question goes to you. We're going to get right into it. Which jazz band famously covered the Kurt Cobain song for Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit? Was it A, the Bad Plus, B, the Robert Glasper Experience, C, Kurt Elling Band, D, none of the above? What's it going to be, Ricky?
I still think this is probably one of the big jazz stories of the last 20 or so years. I would say it's A, the Bad Plus.
Final answer, and you're sure about that?
I'm going to go with that.
Hot dog, he's right, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, the first question goes to the reigning champion, Ricky Riccardi. He's got 2 points. Put it on there. The Bad Plus goes to him. All right, question number 2, going to Joe P. Here we go, buddy. Which of the following jazz band leaders is a seven-time Grammy Award winner? Ricky, you got a few more to catch up here. Which of the following jazz band leaders is a 7-time Grammy Award winner? Is it Joe Lovano, Terri Lyne Carrington, Maria Schneider, Arturo O'Farrill, or none of the above?
Wow.
Who hangs 7 on the mantle, Joe?
Everybody deserves 7 or more. I think it's one of the first 4, and I will go with Maria Schneider.
Final answer, you're sure?
Yes.
Good golly, we're tied up. 2 questions deep. 2-2 is the answer. Good work, Joe. The answer was Maria Schneider. Excellent work. So now we're going to bring this question on to the reigning champ, Ricky R. Question number 3. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right. Who was the leader of the Liberation Music Orchestra? Was it Carla Bley, the great Sun Ra, Charlie Haden, Arturo O'Farrill, or, of course, was it none of them? Was it none of the above?
The none of the above. I know one of these questions is going to be none of the above, but I don't think we've hit there yet. I'm going to say C, Charlie Haden.
That is correct. I have a feeling this week is going to be an exciting one. You have 2 major jazz buffs here, steeped in history, steeped in great knowledge of the genre. So we're going to move on to question number 4 for Mr. Joe Petrucelli of the Jazz Foundation of America. Who is the leader of the social justice focused band known as Social Science? I'll repeat it one more time. Who is the leader of the social justice focused band known as Social Science? Is it Bill Frisell, VJ Iyer, Terri Lyne Carrington, Joshua Redman, or none of the above?
No, this is a tough one. I'm aware that Bill plays in social science, but I'm going to guess C, Terri Lyne.
Absolutely right. Terri Lyne Carrington recently signed to Motema Records, put out a great record a couple of years ago. That is among many great records she's put out. But that is absolutely correct. We are still tied up. This is if we assemble the Jazzology All-Star game, I have a feeling you might see these 2 guys present. All right. Let's move it along, folks. Ricky, you're up. The pressure's on. The score is tied. We're in Jazzology on May 27th, 2022, holiday weekend. Here we go. Which of the following jazz musicians wrote the popular tune St. Thomas? Was it Max Roach, Thad Jones, Art Blakey, Sonny Rollins, or none of these folks?
This is one of the good old standards, so it's got to be D, Sonny Rollins.
If you tried to stump Ricky Riccardi, you can't do it. That is correct. Absolutely correct. Wow. I mean, I got to slow down here because I'm so excited. Ricky, you're crushing it. Joe, I mean, a worthy opponent, I have to say, is here. I mean, you've been up against some great contestants, Ricky, in the past. So it's amazing to see you guys hang in there. While we're slowing things down, I'm going to take a little break here and let you know that Jazzology is brought to you by Savage Content, an exciting new purveyor of quality music programming, from podcasts to live performances and interviews. Savage Content offers an eclectic mix of curated entertainment programming for all music lovers. Be sure to follow Savage Content on social media to hear about our latest releases. I personally follow on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and everywhere you get your Savage Content. And now it's time to ask our contestants our favorite question. How did you fall in love with jazz? This has been a question at the forefront of Savage Content for the last few years with their, of course, How I Fell in Love with Jazz contest. Ricky, you've been telling us for the last few weeks, but we want to know again, how did you fall in love with jazz, brother?
There's a part of me that wants to change the answer to come up with something completely different. Oh, well, it was Dave Brubeck. No, I mean, I'm a one-trick pony. Louis Armstrong, the age of 15, seeing him in the Glenn Miller Story, hearing those 1950s Columbia albums set me on this path, and I've never looked back.
Did you get records right away? Was it sort of like a visceral experience where you had to collect right away, or did it mature over time?
It was a 1-2 punch. Seeing him in the film, the Glenn Miller Story, he does one song, and I said, all right, this guy's great. I need more. And so I went to the local library here in Toms River, New Jersey, and I got a cassette compilation, 16 most requested songs. And that cassette nothing was ever the same. And so that was when I made the decision, I need everything. And so I remember that was like October 95, and my Christmas that year was just nothing but Louis Armstrong box sets. And all of a sudden I was buying everything, reading everything, going to the library every week. And really, I haven't stopped in 27 years.
In 27 years, you awarded yourself a Grammy Award, the highest honor for those that are in the music business, for your love and devotion. That's fantastic, Ricky. Congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
Joe, brother, as a guy who sits atop one of the most prestigious foundations in America, giving back to musicians, the Jazz Foundation of America, how did you fall in love with jazz, brother man?
Well, it's funny. I would date my the time when I fell in love with jazz to 27 years ago as well. And it's funny. I've been teased a little by some of the senior leadership on the board at JFA who've said, you really need more of a dramatic origin story. And it's like I was on the Lamb in Key West or something, and on a stormy night I met Duke Ellington Orchestra in the bar where I was. But no, in fact, I was a high school student, and I loved music. I was playing in punk bands, rock bands, and just had a group of friends that were really obsessive about music of our time, and that would be like the sort of Nirvana grunge era, and just kind of developing an interest in sort of pushing the extremes, sonically, and in terms of expression of what we were checking out. A buddy of mine came back from school on a winter break with a stack of albums, and it was the major works of John Coltrane, with Ascension and Ohm, and Miles Davis, Bitches Brew, Ornette Coleman's Free Jazz. So kind of went off the deep end into the sort of avant-garde realms of jazz, and then just became fascinated and absorbed with the history. And I've been chasing it ever since, and it's been an incredible privilege and honor and joy in my life, these years later, to encounter and work with these people and these artists who sparked my imagination when I was 15 years old.
Joe, it's absolutely incredible to hear that story, because I think it's often underlooked, the correlation and connection to punk rock and jazz music. It seems to be really, really popular, especially among these days where skater culture and punk culture does pay its dues in respect to jazz. I'm curious, as someone that has experience in both those worlds, what do you think it is that marries those two things together?
It's interesting. Two nights ago, I was at Wallace Roney's memorial at Riverside Church. You know, Wallace was one of the tragic losses of the pandemic. You know, and he passed on March 31st, 2020, and Wednesday would have been his 62nd birthday. We celebrated him, and featured on the bill were both Lenny White and Will Calhoun of Living Colour on drums. And Will told Lenny at the rehearsal, and it was, you know, so amazing to know this conversation happened, that Living Colour was really an attempt to fuse the music of Bad Brains with a legendary hardcore punk band from DC, and Return to Forever, with which Lenny played, you know, the beloved fusion bands. So I think it's always like an important reminder, you know, to us to sort of look at the sort of common origins of musical styles, you know, especially in American music. And, you know, if you dig into that punk tradition, you're going back to Iggy Pop, who was inspired by Howlin' Wolf, and that just takes you to Chicago blues, and it takes you to the blues of the South. So more and more over time, I think we come to appreciate the sort of the shared, you know, common threads that generate such a wild abundance of awesome music.
That's a great response, Joe. Thanks for sharing that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Joe Petrucelli of the Jazz Foundation of America, a wonderful organization that we encourage people to check out. You can go to jazzfoundation.org to learn more. Before we jump back into the show, Ricky, I want to ask you one question based on what you were talking about before, 27 years ago. Louis wasn't alive then, right? When you first got exposed? Yeah.
No, he passed away in 1971, and I came around in 1980, so I missed Louis.
So no real overlap.
No, the good news, I mean, I was able to kind of connect with anybody who knew him. So, you know, when I really began my research in earnest, when I was at Rutgers, I got a master's in jazz history and research, and so it was while there I interviewed. There was 5 surviving members of the All Stars. Danny Barcelona, Marty Napoleon, Joe Muraney, Buddy Catlett, and Jewel Brown. And now Jewel's the only one left. She's the last one standing. But also Lewis's friend Jack Bradley, who passed away last year, and the producer George Avakian, who passed away 5 years ago. So at least there was enough folks left that I could just kind of soak up what I could. But what's really got me going is, you know, Louis himself. He made over 700 reel-to-reel tapes, and my day job at the Louis Armstrong House Museum, I'm in charge of Louis's archives. And I think me and Louis are the only 2 people who've listened to every one of those tapes. And so by going through that 700 tapes, you know, probably, I don't know, 1,200, 1,500 hours, I feel like I met him. I feel like I know him better than some of my own family members.
That's incredible, and the work you're doing is really wonderful. Just for those who are watching and tuning in, you're watching Jazzology. Today's guests are Ricky Riccardi and Joe Petrucelli, both 2 great guys from 2 wonderful organizations based in New York City. One is the Louis Armstrong House in Queens, New York City, right by Citi Field, and the other is the Jazz Foundation of America, headquartered in New York City, with roots touching all over the country, helping musicians all over. Why don't we kick back into the game, folks? So this is question 6 that we're up to, which means that it's Joe P's question. And it's time to see if we can tie things up here, Joe. All right. Question number 6. Which jazz composer wrote a tune called "The Shoes of the Fisherman's Wife Are Some Jive-Ass Slippers"?
Okay, can I leave my chair for a sec?
You cannot leave your chair, sir.
Can we do an interactive? Okay. Well, look, I'll lead you into this. All right. While Ricky was speaking and I was listening to him, I was also grabbing a few items off of a shelf behind me. Look, here's a Bad Plus record.
Okay.
Okay. Here's Liberation Music Orchestra. So Ricky's getting all these questions that are right within reach here. And the answer to this one is within reach. And the composer, I don't see any options here, but it's Charles Mingus. and
Wow.
and it's
Okay.
recorded on Let My Children Hear Music, which I can also grab for you.
I mean, I've got to ask the producers here. Can we give bonus points if he's got the record on the wall, folks? Yeah, that's 100% correct. Charles Mingus did write that tune. We'll look into it if we can pop you a bonus point somewhere down the line here,
That's
Joe.
okay.
But
the bonus is to be able to acknowledge Charles Mingus's music this year, his centennial year. It's probably, I think he was the one composer and figure out of so many who I've listened to so thoroughly, who at a certain point in my life I just said, I need to hear everything that he ever did or wrote, and that includes prose writing and his autobiography and all the books about him. So I adore Mingus. We're not supposed to have favorites, but he's the one for me.
Well, when you're tied up at 6-6 in a game of Jazzology, your secret's safe with me, Joe. I won't tell anyone that you got a favorite. Let's move on to question number 7, which is going to the reigning champion, Ricky Riccardi, who wrote the jazz tune Pent Up House. So one more time, I'm going to ask you, who wrote the jazz tune Pent Up House? Was it John McLaughlin, Chick Corea, John Coltrane, Paul Desmond? Or was it none of the above? One more time, who wrote the jazz tune Pent Up House? What do you think, Ricky?
I think I had a feeling it was going to come up at once, but I'm going to go with E, none of the above.
Now, before we lock you in here, you're reigning champion. You seem to have a privy knowledge to all things jazz. You've nailed every question. Everyone's asking you. You're essentially the Ken Jennings of Jazzology. Are you sure that you want to land? I'm just asking. Are you sure that you want to land on none of the above on this one?
I mean, you're making me second guess myself, but I'm pretty certain.
Spoken like a champion, he's correct. None of the above. He's correct.
I was going to say 2 rounds, questions in one. So, yeah, smart.
Joe, we're trying to help you out here. We're trying to dethrone the king of jazz here on Jazzology, Ricky Riccardi. Although I have to say, probably the prince, as Willard Jenkins, our wonderful, lovely host who joins us every other week on Jazzology, is the king of jazz, and I'm merely but a jester in his court. So let's move on. Let's keep it moving. Question number 8. Yeah, exactly. All right, order in the court. So let's move on to question number 8. It's going to Joe P. of the Jazz Foundation of America. Which of the following jazz pianists has included contributions from pop and hip-hop artists? Erykah Badu, Layla Hathaway, Common, and Mos Def on his albums. Was it Jason Moran, Carla Bley, Robert Glasper, Orrin Evans, or none of the above?
Okay, let me think about this one. While I'm thinking about this, you mentioned Ken Jennings. I used to think of Ken Jennings as the Phil Schaap of Jeopardy. So, for Ricky to be the Ken Jennings of Jazzology, that's major. And the answer to this is C, Robert Glasper.
My goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, we're up to question 8. It's a tie jazz game out here in the beautiful foothills of the Catskills in New York, or wherever you're watching from. You're watching Jazzology Greatness in the Making. It's tied up. Joe Petrucelli of the Jazz Foundation versus Ricky Riccardi of the Louis Armstrong House Museum in Queens. Brings us to question number 9. Ricky, you're up. Which of the following jazz musicians were leaders of the Tonight Show with Jay Leno Band? Right? So was it Doc Severinsen, Kevin Eubanks, Wynton Marsalis, Brandon Marsalis, or none of the above?
Oh, is multiple answers a thing? Because there's multiple answers for this one. Of course, we're talking.
We can't fool them, folks. We can't fool them.
If we're talking,
fool them.
Yeah, I'll give you the whole Tonight Show rundown.
Was it?
How about that? Yeah.
Yeah, what? Oh, wasn't? Was the question wasn't?
No. The question was. Well, yeah.
Oh, you're trying mind games. No, for Leno, it was originally D, Branford Marsalis, and he was followed by B, Kevin Eubanks. For Carson, Doc Severinsen, and Wynton has not ended up in late night TV yet.
Although we can't give bonus points for having a record in your collection, we cannot give bonus points for getting 2 multiple options right. But yes, Ricky, you have done it again. Great work. Yes, that's correct. Let's move on to the next question. 10-8. Joe, this is your chance to tie it up. And it's the last question we have before we go into the bonus round. So let's get serious, folks. Which of the following composers or band leaders wrote the Afro Cuban suite for the Machito Orchestra? Was it Chico O'Farrell, Mario Bauza, Dizzy Gillespie, Eddie Palmieri, or none of the above?
Okay. This is a tough one. So many great composers here, and I'm familiar with some Machito Gillespie collaborations. I'm going to say C, Dizzy Gillespie.
Now, before we let you answer that, are you sure? You're going up against the king here. So if you answer Dizzy Gillespie and it's Dizzy Gillespie, wait, but God bless, we're tied. If you answer Dizzy Gillespie and it's wrong, we're going to have to bump you up in the bonus round. So you sure that's what you want to answer?
Well, given that I can get bumped up in the bonus round.
What does it matter on Jazzology? We're going crazy. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Unfortunately, that is incorrect. The first wrong answer on this episode. Ricky, you have an opportunity to steal for 1 point.
I'll tell you, this was the hardest question I've seen today, too. Let's see here. Well, I feel like we're going to the bonus round anyway, so I'm just going to toss it out. A, Chico O'Farrell.
That's absolutely correct, meaning that you get 1 point for that. Now, Ricky, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Slumdog Millionaire, but it's
many moons ago.
It's a film about a young man who goes on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and he gets every question right, and it's sort of steeped in all of these moments from his life leading up to that moment. You knowing all the answers to these questions, is it by virtue of having studied Louis so much, or is it sort of a collection of all of these things working together that help you answer these questions so smoothly?
Yeah, I mean, I'm known as the Louis guy, but as I mentioned earlier, I have a master's in jazz history and research, and so I've gone down every path pretty much imaginable. Louis Porter was one of my mentors at Rutgers, and I took a Coltrane class with him, a Monk class with him, a Mingus class with him, jazz tenor saxophone class, and so I've always, I'm a lot more than I made the joke before. I'm a one-trick pony, but I listen to everything, and I can't deny it. I have a photographic memory, or if I see something once, it's kind of just gets locked in there. I was memorizing World Series winners when I was 5 years old, and so it's been it's been going that way ever since.
Fantastic, Ricky. Well, it's so cool to hear these answers. And Joe, you're no slouch in this game. I have to tell you, it's been an incredible match. Each week, it gets better and better on Jazzology. So make sure that you tune in 1 week from next Friday, meaning every other Friday we'll be here, and the great Willard Jenkins will return to his throne here hosting the show. But in the interest of time, gentlemen, we're going to move this thing along. Obviously, if you're watching right now, you see that Ricky's in the lead 11-8, which means, Joe, it's bonus round time for you. Here you go. This is your opportunity to tie things up with a bonus question. And if you get this right, then we go into sudden death overtime, meaning that it'll be a shootout for the right answer. However, if you get this wrong, Joe, then the great Ricky Riccardi continues on his reign. So here we go, Joe. You ready?
And I cry with my records. All right, let's do this.
All right, here we go. The famed San Francisco Jazz Club, known as the Keystone Corner, is now relocated to which of the following cities? Is it now in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Chicago, Milwaukee, or none of them?
My buddy Todd Barkin has relocated to Baltimore. None of the above.
Oh boy, we're going into a shootout. It's like a New York Rangers playoff game in here. Excellent work. Yes, we're all tied up. The score is 11-11, which means that we now have a bonus lightning round. So we're going to start with final question here of the game. Now, Ricky, you're going to be the first to answer this because you were in the lead. So here we go, folks. Giddy up. Last question of the day on a beautiful Memorial Day weekend. Here we go, folks. The annual Earshot Jazz Festival takes place every year. It's the Earshot Jazz Festival. Where does it take place? In Portland, Vancouver, British Columbia, Seattle, Lisbon, or none of the damn places that we mentioned. Which one is it, Ricky?
Well, I've said this before. My Achilles heel is this kind of stuff because I rarely get out of the New York, New Jersey area. So what you're about to see is going to be a pure 100% unadulterated guess. B, Vancouver.
That is incorrect.
Yeah, I knew it.
Joe, for a chance to take over, the annual Earshot Jazz Festival takes place in which city? Portland, Vancouver, Seattle, Lisbon, or none of the above?
Well, I have been to a Lisbon, New Hampshire, and I'm not aware of other Lisbons in the Northwest. I believe the answer, because I've had my eye on visiting both Portland and Seattle, and I've never gone to either. I'm going to go with C, Seattle.
Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, there's a new Jazzology champion. I have to say a big congratulations to Joe Petrucelli on winning this week's episode. And of course, this show would not be where it is without the great Ricky Riccardi, who's helped us immensely by bringing an unparalleled jazz knowledge to the show. Thank you both so much for being here. Fantastic job, guys. Really, really remarkable. Yes, the answer is Seattle. The confetti rains down on a new champion. However, we must acknowledge Ricky Riccardi with the record in the first season of Jazzology. Has it been 4 consecutive weeks, Ricky?
4 in a row. Yeah.
Wow. So Joe,
5.
Joe, you've got big things ahead of you here. So without further ado, let's give you the floor real quick. And if you wouldn't mind, let's give a plug for the Jazz Foundation of America.
Sure, gladly. Yes. So I am the executive director of the Jazz Foundation, a nonprofit based in New York, but working nationally, that provides emergency assistance to musicians in crisis. So that's housing, healthcare, employment, disaster relief, and direct financial support. So, we're working with musicians and families, during times of, managing chronic medical conditions, or recovering from catastrophic accidents, or rebuilding their homes after a hurricane, or just, working with a lot of people, at a stage in their career, as they're entering old age, when the phone's ringing less and the gigs are fewer. And the premise of the foundation really is a simple one, that jazz and blues artists give us so much comfort and provide us so much solace, and they do it leading a precarious existence. And we want to acknowledge that and do something in return by offering a safety net and a thank you, in the form of the services we offer. I think the pandemic has given us a lot of time to reflect on just what music means to us. I don't think any of us could have endured the tragedy and the hardship of the past 2 years without the music and the musicians we love. And musicians were the first to get knocked down by COVID, and they're going to be among the last to recover a real sense of normalcy. So let's continue to support them. The Jazz Foundation is www.jazzfoundation.org. We are now working with 2,000 musicians and families nationally. During COVID, we've had clients in 43 states plus DC and Puerto Rico and in Virgin Islands. And this is a deeply deserving community of artists, too often overlooked. And we thank you for your consideration and support of them.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Joe. And thank you, Ricky. I'm an artist manager and record label owner, which is how I got put into this thing. And I can tell you firsthand that the Jazz Foundation of America has helped some of our artists And it's incredible to see the actual difference it makes in their lives from the time that they are in need to the time that they get the attention and service that the Jazz Foundation provides. So thank you so much, Joe, for all your help. And Ricky, I hope to see you at 3456 107th Street in Queens one day. That is where the Louis Armstrong House is located in Corona, Queens. To everyone watching, you've been watching Jazzology by Savage Content. Take care and enjoy your weekend, everyone. Congratulations,
Thank you.
Joe.
Take care.